Hello, I'm Thomas Tulak, and this is Filmmakering Like a Boss. Now, I don't claim to be an expert, but I am an award-winning filmmaker, and I have a passion for filmmaking, which is really all you need to get started. In the last episode, I spoke about handheld camera and how it can suggest reality. This, of course, means that handheld camera lends itself very well to the POV shot, or point of view, especially if you have a character that's running really quickly or looking in different directions or anything like that. If done right, you can actually use this technique to bring your camera to life. POV works great for putting the audience inside the shot because it's basically showing them what they would see if they were physically there. That's the difference between POV and omniscient. POV is you're in there, you're in the action, but you're still limited by your human mind that only knows what it knows. So you can only see what's going on right in front of you and not know anything about what's going on behind you. What's that old adage about, is the wall behind me still there when I turn around? Yes, it is. It's still there. But is it still there now? Joss Whedon used this trick a lot in the show Firefly, the handheld in the moment thing where it's like a cameraman is in the actual action covering the action. On the other side of that coin, you have omniscient camera, where instead of being a character in the story, the camera is actually the narrator of the story. It's omniscient because it knows everything that's happening. It knows things that the characters in the story don't even know, and it chooses when to tell you those things, but the audience will know those things because the camera knows those things. If it's looking over here at this piece of action over here, and then something happens over here, it's going to look over here in time because it knows that thing is about to happen, so you're not going to miss anything, rather than the humanizing the camera element where it's looking over here, then this thing happens, then it turns over here, and maybe misses the first piece of it. The omniscient camera knows that it's going to happen, so turns right at the right moment to catch it, to show the audience that this thing is happening, because the omniscient camera knows everything about the story. A couple episodes ago, I talked about the opening scene from Back to the Future, and I feel like this scene was so well done that it deserves looking at again and looking at more in depth. So we're going to look at it again. We come into the scene with the camera panning across the variety of clocks. So right off the bat, Robert Zemeckis is using a combination of camera movement and great production design to convey messages to the audience. A variety of clocks, all different styles, but all set to the same time. Side note, I also love this picture of a clock that's there with a person hanging off one of the hands that's foreshadowing, if you've seen the movie, about what happens later on. But it's just a picture of a clock. It's not actually a clock. Some of them are on the counter. Some of them are hanging on the wall. This suggests that the person who lives in this house is obsessed with time. Then we pan to a framed newspaper with the headline, "Brown Mansion Destroyed." Perhaps it's this person's mansion that was destroyed. Perhaps this is Mr. Brown. The camera continues to pan to framed pictures of famous scientists and inventors next to what looks like a messy bed and another clock. So this person, Mr. Brown presumably, looks up to scientists and inventors. Perhaps maybe this means that he is himself a scientist and inventor, and his bed is messy because he must be so busy inventing and scientisting that he has no time to make it. Then the radio alarm clock goes off.
October is inventory time, so right now Statler Toyota is making the best deals of the year on all 1985 model Toyotas.
First, this is great for 2 points. Firstly, it's another clock, another form of clock. Secondly, the radio commercial establishes the date. It's 1985. Then the coffee machine switches on, only there's no coffee pot. So Mr. Brown, the time-obsessed scientist and inventor, is fueling his inventions with coffee. Notice how this has all been in one take, one continuous camera movement, with motivation pouring out the sides.
Officials at the Pacific Nuclear Research Facility have denied the rumor that a case of missing plutonium was in fact stolen from their vault 2 weeks ago. A Libyan terrorist group had claimed responsibility for the alleged theft,
Now we get to the TV, and things really start to get interesting as the news reporter talks about stolen plutonium and the Libyan terrorists, which, as we all know, plays a big part in the film later on. Can we say foreshadowing? Now the camera continues to pan, and we start to see some inventions, presumably invented by Mr. Brown, who lives in this small house because his mansion was destroyed. And it's a pretty cool invention. It's all automated, it feeds the dog on a timer, so clearly this inventor, Mr. Brown, has experience inventing things. And we have our first cut of the sequence, which is just an insert shot showing that the dog isn't there to eat the food that the automated dog feeder is feeding him. This automated dog feeder, which is clearly set to a clock, has fed the dog multiple times already, so it's safe to say that the dog and its owner have been gone for days. Then back to the same moving shot. Enter a kid with a skateboard, and we get two great things here. First, we get Mr. Brown's title, Doc. So this is Doc Brown.
Hey, Doc.
And then whoever this kid is, he clearly comes here often enough to know that the key is hidden under the mat, implying that this kid and Doc Brown are close friends. But why is the camera following the kid's feet? Well, this, in my opinion, is the best part of the whole sequence, as we follow the skateboard to, dun-dun-dun-dun, the stolen plutonium that we heard the news reporter talking about. Whatever it is that Doc Brown is inventing not only has something to do with time, but is taking all of his attention and has to do with the stolen plutonium. This sequence is a great example of not only motivated camera movement, but omniscient camera movement, because Marty had no idea that the plutonium was underneath Doc's bed. But the camera did. This one sequence alone, which was all a single moving shot for the most part, with very little dialogue, by itself told us so many great things about the story, the plot, and one of its primary characters. This is really such a great sequence. I love stuff like this. Great cinematography done in a great way, to me, is incredibly inspirational. And of course, I have a lot more to say about it, but I just can't give it all away in one video. So, hit that subscribe button and follow along on the next episode of Filmmakering Like a Boss. Here at the end screen, I would like to invite you to see some of my filmmakering in action by clicking on one of these links over here that will take you to a playlist of each specific one of these links that looks pretty cool from inside this little player window right here. I would also like to invite you to at least consider supporting Easily Amused Group Productions on Patreon, as we did just finish production on a big project that we're currently submitting to film festivals, and your help goes a long way to helping us reach that goal. And we're planning a bunch of other really big projects coming up in the near future, so hit that link down there that also looks really cool from this player window. And thank you for watching the Easily Amused Group, the show that is always thinking fourth dimensionally.